Was Shakespeare actually a group of writers? A Quill Dipped in Mystery is the title of this. Assume that London was in the late 16th century. In spite of the fact that the epidemic has caused the theaters to lock their doors and the odor of the Thames to linger in the air, a pen is frantically scratching over parchment in a cramped study that is lit by candles. In just a few short years, plays such as Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, and Macbeth will explode onto the stage. These plays are works that are so multifaceted and so penetrating in their understanding of human nature that they continue to be unequaled even today. However, here is the catch. Could these masterpieces have been the product of the intellect of a single man from Stratford-upon-Avon, a man who did not have a university education, had a low social status, and nearly no manuscripts that have survived? On the other hand, it is possible that William Shakespeare was a front for a covert underground organization of writers. This is not merely a discussion about literature. It's a conundrum that calls into question our understanding of genius, history, and even the very concept of truth itself. The official account of the story is titled, One Man, One Quill. The narrative that is widely accepted is interesting and motivating. Shakespeare, who was born in Stratford in 1564 to a glovemaker, relocates to London when he is in his 30s before becoming famous. He is a member of the Lord Chamberlain's men, and later the King's men, and he performs, writes, and stages plays for them. Both Queen Elizabeth I and King James I are stunned by the beauty of his creations. On the occasion of his passing in 1616, he left behind a collection of plays and poems that are considered to be the foundation of the English language. The historical record, on the other hand, is woefully inadequate. This is the problem. What we have is his baptismal record as well, a document proving the marriage. It was the occasion of his children being christened. Some documents about the business, including lawsuits over financial matters. What elements do we lack? Records of him being paid directly for writing, original manuscripts of his plays, letters written in his handwriting, and other handwritten correspondence. The lack of activity in the archives has led some to question whether or not Shakespeare was more of a brand than a guy. The beginning of the conspiracy in the world. There have always been questions over Shakespeare's authorship. In the 19th century, academics began to notice inconsistencies in the timeline and style of his writings. This was the beginning of these contradictions. Why would someone who possessed, there is no indication of aristocratic connections, there is no record of getting a higher education, and there is limited travel outside of the country, writing with such a profound understanding of the legal system, medical practices, international courts, and the nuances of royal court politics? Why would they choose to conceal themselves behind a single name? Censorship. The government in England exercised a great deal of control over the theater. Controversial beliefs could lead to incarceration, or even worse consequences. Reputation. Aristocrats were not allowed to freely write for the public stage, since doing so would hurt their social position. Marketability. The name William Shakespeare has the potential to become a recognizable brand for audiences, which would ensure that the film is successful at the box office. Who had the potential to be a member of the group? Some fascinating candidates for a Shakespearean writing circle have been proposed by historians, including the following. Christopher Marlowe, also known as the Master of Spycraft. According to the official account, Marlowe, a rival dramatist who boasted a reputation for being deadly, passed away in 1593. Many believe that he fabricated his death to avoid being charged with espionage above, and continued composing under the name Shakespeare. The philosopher, Sir Francis Bacon of the United Kingdom. Shakespeare's historical plays were written by Bacon, a lawyer, scientist, and court insider who had the education and political access necessary to compose them. Those who support him argue that the style of the plays is reflected in his essays. The concealed noblewoman is Mary Sidney Herbert, who is referred to as she was a poet in her own right, as well as a patron of the arts, and the Countess of Pembroke. However, a noblewoman could have contributed anonymously to a joint endeavor, even though she was not permitted to publish plays in public. The playwrights Ben Jonson and his fellow playwrights. Others believe that Shakespeare's company collaborated, sharing ideas, refining scripts, and turning old plays into new masterpieces throughout their time together. The stylistic fingerprints of the individual. The group theory has been given additional support by contemporary computational analysis. Academics have discovered the following through the study of linguistic peculiarities, vocabulary usage, and rhythm patterns. Certain plays, such as those related to Henry VI, exhibit a significant amount of stylistic similarity to Marlowe's earlier works. So, certain tragedies are reminiscent of the structure and rhetoric of Bacon's essays. When it comes to comedies, patterns that can be found in other Elizabethan dramatists' works are frequently present. Marlowe was even listed as a co-author of several plays in the edition of Shakespeare's works that was published by Oxford University Press in 2016. This was a move that was originally deemed heretical, the argument in favor of working together. By Marlowe, the Elizabethan theatre was characterized by its rapid pace, commercial nature, and collaborative tendencies. In order to satisfy the demand, plays were written rapidly. More often than not, writers recycled previously written material or stole sequences from one another. The presence of many donors to a Shakespeare play is not unheard of. However, the presence of a full covert syndicate is a different issue entirely. Supposedly, the group theory would explain the following: the sudden leap in quality from his early plays to his later masterpieces. The Elizabethan stage was a place where everything was kept under wraps. There was no author ownership of the scripts. They were corporate property. It was not profitable for playwrights to publish their works during their lifetimes. Thus, they did so only infrequently. The first folio, which was compiled by Shakespeare's friends after he died in 1623, was the first collection of plays to be preserved for public consumption. It is possible that the genuine authors, if there were any at all, had already passed away at that point. In addition, here is the delicious irony. If Shakespeare was a collective, then the most successful literary plot in the history of the world was so successful that it is possible that we will never discover the truth. Reasons why it is important. It is not merely a matter of historical trivia to ask this question. It gets to the core of what we mean when we talk about genius. His genius is nearly magical. He had a mind that only comes around once every millennium. If Shakespeare says, "And we're a single man," it demonstrates the immense creative power of collaboration, and it questions our fixation with the concept of the solitary genius. If Shakespeare were many, then this is a challenging proposition. In either case, the plays will continue to exist. They continue to speak across ages, whether they were born from a single pen in Stratford or the hushed gatherings of a hidden circle. This is evidence that the identity of the author may be less significant than the reality of the art. The closing of the curtain. Is it true that Shakespeare was essentially a collection of authors? There is a lot of evidence, yet it is not enough to prove anything. It's possible that the man from Stratford wrote everything down, using his keen sense of observation, vivid imagination, and insatiable mind. On the other hand, it's possible that whenever we talk about Shakespeare, we are talking about a secret group of people whose words continue to reverberate all across the world. And it's possible that, just like the ghost in the play Hamlet, the truth will always be lurking in the shadows, compelling us to look for it, but never completely to be found. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. We'd love to hear from you.